Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. Our guest today is Philip Young, Chairman and CEO of Lobe Sciences, who's providing some important insights from his company's recent acquisition of Altemia. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yes, we're glad to have you. Before we get to the meat of our discussion today, why don't you tell our viewers who may not be familiar with Lobe Sciences about your company?
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity. Lobe Sciences is a commercial stage drug development company, and specifically we have pivoted our focus and we're only looking at developing therapies for orphan and rare diseases. So our first two diseases that we've selected to identify treatments for, and we have identified those first treatments. One of them is chronic cluster headaches, which is a devastating headache that about 150,000 people in the United States get annually. These headaches are the most debilitating pain patients can ever say that they've experienced, far more painful than gunshot wounds and childbirth. These patients continually have headaches, 4 to 8 a day. And these clusters can last for months or years. And it's very, very problematic. And there's really no good therapeutic option for these patients today. We believe L130 is the ideal component, the ideal drug to help these patients break the cycle of the cluster headaches and also eliminate the cluster headaches in totality. So we're excited about that. We'll begin our first study up in New York City in about the next 6 to 8 weeks. Where we'll be evaluating the safety of L130, but in addition, we'll start to generate some efficacy endpoints. L131, our second psilocin-derived compounds, and all of our compounds are proprietary to our company and patented. And L131 is being developed for a confidential pediatric orphan drug indication. We've kept it confidential for now because it is such an exciting space, and we want to make sure that we get the orphan drug designation from the FDA before we announce what the indication is. But once again, 131 is a proprietary compound and very, very exciting to get this going. We'll be starting a preclinical model that we have to do for the FDA to demonstrate efficacy for the pediatric indication. And we should have that data ready to go this summer. And that's another exciting opportunity. And then the big news yesterday was acquiring Altemia and company. That really sets us apart now. Makes us a revenue-generating company and makes us so that we can go out, generate significant revenue, use that to fund our research and development. It's a great opportunity for the shareholders. The people who are receiving the shares aren't going to be selling the shares. So the 76 million shares the company allocated for this acquisition are going to be placed with an insider who has no desire to sell shares in the open market. And that protects all shareholders right now, but also helps prepare the way for the future of developing Altemia, which I'm sure we'll talk about more.
Right. So we'll talk about that acquisition a little bit later, but I just want to ask you, for those who may not be familiar with the terminology, could you just provide sort of an overview of what an orphan disease is?
Sure. That's a good point. Orphan drugs are a result of an act of Congress back in the 80s. And what was identified was that these small markets, and to be qualified as an orphan drug, there has to be fewer than 225,000 patients in the United States. And so these indications or these illnesses were being left behind by Big Pharma. There's no incentive to spend the money to develop a drug for so few patients. Big Pharma likes big patient audiences, millions and millions of patients, and this isn't that. So the Congress developed the Orphan Drug Designation, the Orphan Drug Act, so that companies who develop drugs for these get special market exclusivity extensions. And they also, when it's a pediatric orphan drug indication, have an opportunity to apply for a pediatric priority review voucher. Those vouchers are extremely valuable. Each voucher generally sells for $100 million, give or take. Just recently, Bluebird Bio sold 2 priority review vouchers to another big pharma for a couple $100 million. So we now have the opportunity to get 2 priority review vouchers, one for the pediatric indication that we've kept confidential for L131, but also for SAN 100, which is a very small capsule formulation of Altemia for pediatric patients specifically. So it's an exciting opportunity for us to go after patients that are often neglected by big pharma, and gives us the opportunity to take advantage of an opening where we think we can provide superior therapeutics.
So let's talk about the Altemia acquisition and what it means for the company. What was the value proposition for Altemia that led to this acquisition?
Sure. I'm happy to, and I'm excited to. I'll back up a little bit. The genesis of the Altemia product line, beginning with the Altemia medical food and SAN 100, started 20 years ago when Dr. Fred Sancilio started investigating sickle cell disease. He's an accomplished chemist and drug developer as well as entrepreneur. And he spent time understanding the dynamics of the circulatory blood system in sickle cell patients. And specifically, it's called sickle cell because patients' red blood cells become misshapen in the shape of a sickle. Eventually, they get very sticky and they clog the arteries or small blood vessels, really, not arteries. And it causes excruciating pain in the patients. Patients need to be on opioids, and they need to be admitted to hospitals quite often. Dr. Sancilio identified a specific compound that, when given to animal models, improved the animal's outcome tremendously. So fast forward to a couple years ago, he was developing Altemia as a medical food. And a medical food is unique in the FDA regulatory process. A medical food which was provided for in the Orphan Drug Act from the 1980s, specifically for sickle cell. It says that this is a compound that must be used under the supervision of a physician. A physician must prescribe it, and the patients have to be monitored and managed by the physician. But it doesn't take the same path as a prescription drug because it's identified as a supplement. And our base component of our compound is called DHA, which is a form of an omega-3, which everyone's familiar with, the fish oils. You can take fish oil capsules and get small levels of DHA. But what Dr. Sancilio was able to do was to do a proprietary emulsion formulation where we have very, very high concentrations of DHA and very low concentrations of other fatty fish oils. So it gives the patients the opportunity to take one package, and it's based on a package of, say, ketchup from a fast food place. You squeeze it into food or squeeze it into your mouth, and that's it. That package represents up to 10 capsules from the original formulation that was developed without the emulsification. So now we have this, and we have the opportunity to bring it into patients immediately. Excuse me. So through the acquisition, we've acquired all the IP, which is the formulation work and the patent on using it for sickle cell, which is important. But we also brought into the company pretty sufficient amounts of inventory, which we'll be able to monetize here in the next few months. And that's very, very good for us. For the patients, we'll be bringing in, physicians prescribing for the patients, we'll be bringing a new product opportunity that has demonstrated, and the data shows very clearly, that it can reduce vaso-occlusive events, which are the painful events that happens when their small vessels get blocked. We also believe it will reduce opioid use, and we also believe it will reduce hospitalizations. That's what the doctors look for. Sickle cell is devastating. Even with the treatments that are available today, patients generally have much shorter life expectancy, 20 to 30 years. And we believe that if we can help maintain their healthy red blood cells, maintain the circulatory integrity of all of their vessels, that we will reduce the pain, will reduce hospitalizations, excuse me, and maybe one day in the future actually have the opportunity to extend the life of sickle cell patients. And interestingly enough, in the United States, there's about 100,000 of them, and that number is increasing a lot with the increased immigration.
Yeah, I understand currently there's no cure for sickle cell anemia. And, treatments can just relieve pain and help prevent complications, I guess. So, what's the next steps for you after this acquisition? So is this, are you going into sort of the regulatory process to get that process of getting this product into market?
We'll be doing two things. One, Altemia, the medical food, we are putting the plans in place right now. We've identified potential partners for distribution, which is very important in this marketplace. And we have the right, because we've done the production of the product and we've done the initial clinical research demonstrating that it's better at reducing a biomarker of inflammation, which is a core component of sickle cell. So we have the data necessary and the product necessary to begin selling it into the marketplace. That's for the Altemia medical food. And that's important because we're able to concentrate on a very small market. It's amazing to think that 100,000 patients, the vast majority are managed in 55 centers across the United States. Very easy to target, very easy to message, and very easy to partner with physicians and their treatment staff to help the patients. Routine clinics have 600 to 800 patient visits a week. It's a massively busy process, and we really believe we can have a major impact. So come this summer, we'll be generating revenue from selling Altemia, a big step for a company that was just a drug discovery and development company. We're now commercially supporting ourselves. That's a big deal. And then we'll begin working on the follow-on product, SAN 100. And SAN 100, as I mentioned earlier, is a very tiny capsule that we will be developing for pediatric orphan drug patients. The one thing we found when studies were done years ago is that kids taking a lot of capsules, and they have to take a lot of medicine, once they start to feel better, and the adults, they stop taking them. It's just a hassle and it's a pain. And so Dr. Sansilio was able to identify and create a much better product presentation so that you can get the impact of 10 capsules in a tiny capsule. This is great for kids. It's also an orphan indication we will apply for. And also, as I mentioned earlier, it also qualifies us for the priority review voucher. So we've got a lot of work planned. A phase 3 study would begin next year for that indication. And that would take about a year to complete. And at that point in late 24, early 25, then be filing to get approval in the United States for the follow-on product. But all along the way, we'll be selling Altemia, the medical food, a very differentiated product in the marketplace right now.
Right. Are there plans to sell Altemia? So you mentioned the United States. Are you bringing that potentially to Canada as well?
Yes, 100%. I'm so centric in the United States, but certainly in North America is what I should be saying. We definitely will be doing that. We have a partnership with a specialty pharma company over in Italy. They have licensed the rights to sell Altemia, the medical food, in Europe and the Middle East. Very, very large markets. Europe is about the same size as the United States, but once again, that's increasing in size because of the massive immigration waves that are coming into Europe. But the Middle East has millions of sickle cell patients. And it's a very opportune market for us to attack through our partner. He has deep ties to the Middle East. And actually, we will be having discussions with some of the Middle Eastern governments in the next 6 weeks to get Altemia, the medical food, into their medical systems to treat their patients. And we get a nice double-digit royalty from any sales in Europe and the Middle East.
Well, that's wonderful. And congratulations on that acquisition. And we're certainly going to be watching for more news to come from your company.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to tell a story.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights.